Live tonight from iRacing's virtual Michigan International Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the Michigan 200, round 17 of the 2022 Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. Well, as always, we're happy that you're spending your Monday evening with us on RaceSpotTV. Our producer downstairs is Joshua Lee, and alongside Nolan Rempel, as always, my name is Evan Pasoko. Nolan, first and foremost, Terry's not here, so the one-liners and the quips are solely up to us, so we'll try not to let him down tonight, but I think a lot of the craziness may be on track because it is the fourth to last race of the regular season. There are plenty of points paying positions left into the playoffs. Right? Not like what we see in the NASCAR Cup Series, but that means that a lot can still change. There's drivers that need more points for wins to count. There's drivers who are within striking distance of cracking those top 16. So there's a lot that's going to be decided over the course of the next month. This kicks off a streak of 14 straight Monday nights of racing until we crown the Full Throttle Cup champ this season.
And you mentioned there's a lot that can happen, especially at a track such as the Michigan International Speedway. I heard a friend of mine once say this track is, when you compare it to a track like, say, Daytona, it's similar but different. And I think I can understand what that means. This race is going to be full of pack racing, just like what you're so used to seeing over at Super Speedway races. But it's the type of pack race that is so unique. It's not just going to be the straight two lines. You're going to have drivers fanning out 2 wide, 3 wide, sometimes even 4, most likely just a bit more single file, at least at the opening goings, but it's all going to kick off when you get to those corners. Everybody's going to have different braking points. Some people only going to be lifted off throttle, but a little bit earlier in the corners. There's going to be a lot of hectic action that's going to be had here in Michigan, and personally, I can't wait to see how this is going to play out into the 2022 championship.
Yeah, this racetrack was once known for its speeds of 215 miles an hour, but as you mentioned, in this current era of racing, it's going to be about the pack. At this 2-mile D-shaped oval, it's worth noting its sister track in Fontana was way back on February the 28th for round 2 of the season. That one was won by Brandon Six of Keep It Real Esports 2, so maybe he is going to be a name to look for here tonight. But wide, sweeping corners here at MIS, it's always an exciting place to come to because, again, it and Fontana are the only tracks like it. And if Fontana's reconfiguration happens in the coming years, like is to be expected, it may stand as the only 2-mile D-shaped oval on the NASCAR Cup calendar for some time. And, of course, not that far out of the Motor City. It's always a big race for the race car manufacturers. Everybody likes winning here at MIS. Could be a big afternoon if one of the Ford teams could find some success. We are going into the qualifying session tonight. Gonna line them up and see how we're gonna go racing this evening, but we referenced the points, and that's the big thing, Nolan. All you hear Sunday nights in the Cup Series is all the winners, right? We have 8 different race winners. All those drivers are almost guaranteed to be locked in. The only question remains in Daniel Eberhard. He is 30th in the points. For his race win to count, he will need to finish the regular season in 25th. So if he doesn't do that, you look on the right-hand side of your screen, that would move Thomas George from out to in. But George, Wetmore, and Cato, I think, all have a realistic shot at getting above the cut line. And I think Johnson, Johnston, and Lariah are all at risk of dropping out. So that 6-car bubble is very critical. I think once you get down to the Williams, Schmitz, and further, you got to be thinking about a race win because they're a whole race's worth of points behind.
Now, they certainly are. I mean, you look at just William Schmidt, that is 24 points separated just between himself and Ross Cato. That would mean if he were to win the race, he would have to rely on Cato to be finishing outside of the top half of the field, which, let's be honest, judging by some of Cato's pace we've seen so far this season, is not a very likely factor to have happen on either count. So I think they are going to have to count more towards race wins, but of course they would still need Daniel Eberhard to not make those top 30 points, and they're not going to be able to find their way on in. Thomas George finds himself just 7 points outside of the playoff top 16 with Michael Araya just above him, and it's only 3 points back to the next closest driver, who is currently just a meager 11 points out.
So that's going to be interesting. Of course, the Eberhard story, I think, is one of the biggest ones that we'll track because Eberhard is a multi-time race winner this season, but he only has 3 top 10 finishes. It is so consistently feast or famine for the team driver, and I think that he's going to need to settle if he has a bad start to a night for just getting some points. Right now, 25th in points is occupied by Brian Chambliss with 192 points. Daniel Eberhardt in 30th has 176. So that means that he is 16 points out of the position that he needs to be in. Again, that is a easily, I will say, surmountable number if Eberhardt can get the finishes that is necessary. Another note as well is no knockout qualifying necessary tonight. 42 cars qualifying for the grid of 43. So everybody going to make the show as we get set for, again, this final race of a racetrack like this, having raced in Fontana earlier this year, and it'll be the last time, of course, we see Michigan, the one and only time it makes it on the calendar. Coming up after this, next week we go to Richmond, Watkins Glen, and then Daytona to close out the regular season. And I just have to wonder if this is the racetrack where maybe we see another first-time win, right? There's plenty of drivers with a couple of top fives that don't have wins. Grant Davis, Chris Rabel, names that jump off the sheet to me. Connor Horn. I think this style of race could certainly give those drivers a great opportunity, Nolan.
I absolutely agree. It's one of the more wilder racetracks. It's not, well, it's relying a little bit on skill. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to stop myself right there before I say something that's going to get the entire iRacing community really angry at me. But it is partially relying on a little bit of luck. You need to know how to place your car. You need to know when you want to execute a run. It's going to be much easier to get to the backs of some drivers, and that means it could be a lot easier to execute passes as well, so long as you're already alongside by the time you enter that corner. But this track can also be a lot like Bristol. If you try to execute a pass going into the turns, it can be a real big challenge to try to follow through on the corner exit.
And we'll see how this one plays out, but the qualifying session is drawing to a close. So let's go trackside for the 17th time this season and take a look at your K-List Synthetics starting grid. Pole position goes to Brandon Bowie, his 39.325, best of them all, and he will bring us to the green flag alongside the number 31 machine of Kevin King, winner of the last two races this season. Matt Danson still looking for his first career oval race win, starts third alongside Landon Mills, who was dynamite in his 2022 debut, at Andrew Freenosh and Connor Horn. That is a power-packed top six.
That will leave the number 20 car of Brandon Fetterplace out of Ohio with Sean Castill on row number 4. Kyle Trudell and Brandon 6 will round out the top 10. Grant Davis is in 11th with Joseph Tice down in 12th.
And William Schmidt's going to find himself in the lucky number 13 starting spot alongside Brian Chambliss on row 7. Kyle Kamer starts 15th tonight alongside Christian Malarchik in 16th. Daniel Eberhardt with a little bit of work to do from the midfield in 17th, and Chris Rabel in 18th.
And that'll put the likes of David Kolb in 19th. Ross Cato is at 20th. Tom Wetmore rounds out the top half of this field, but we're still within 0.2 of a second from the pole time. Cody Harris is 22nd. Nick Silver is 23rd. Timothy Johnston, 24th.
And now you start to get towards the rear. The likes of Thomas George almost 0.2 up compared to the likes of the cars up front. Jaron Winemaster starting 26th. Rhett McBride 27th. Nancy Major 28th. And it's Bradley Burke and Eric Papineau on row 15.
And that will put Braden Whitaker, Sean Kalis, Lariah, Kuczynski, Murano, and Johnson for 31st through 36th.
And at the back of the grid tonight, DeBarro, Miller, Jones, Nieto, Grindle, and Edwards. Going to be your 42-car grid here tonight from Michigan. Of course, you take a look at the track conditions. Relatively cool atmospheric, but the track temp's going to be a little bit hot. Partly cloudy conditions as we race into the afternoon here in the Brooklyn, Michigan area. This racetrack, as mentioned earlier, 2-mile D-shaped oval. Corners banked at 18 degrees. The 12-degree sweeping bank on the front straightaway as we get set to go racing tonight for 100 laps and 200 miles. Fixed setup, standard iRacing setup and used by the entire field. Everybody has 4 tire changes available on pit road should they need them. There are no fast repairs available, and they are running with 100% fuel. So the base car going to be down and in this time, and maybe an opportunity for Brandon Bowie to make a statement here this afternoon in Michigan. Looking to continue what has been a strong season for him. He's still looking, though, for his first race win of 2022. Base car down and in. It's Bowie's field to control as we say, let's go racing at Michigan. It was a rough lap for your pole sitter as Bowie falls to 7th by the start-finish line, Nolan, and it was the 3-wide move to the inside for Matt Danson that puts the 38 Chevrolet to the race lead. Top 4 single file. Plenty of good racing off of 2 in the midfield.
Plenty of good moves made to the midfield indeed. Among those was Daniel Eberhard on the front straightaway. Made a 4-wide pass up the inside of Brandon Fetterplace, as well as Kyle Kamer and Brian Chambliss went almost 3 for 3. Ended up losing out to Kamer in the middle of 3 and 4, but we're still clean racing for the first 2 laps, and so far only single file for about the top 6.
Looking off at the back of that top 6 benchmark where Sean Casto watches on for all the side-by-side fighting behind him. And there is your pole sitter Brandon Bowie's 34 on the inside, unable to make some moves. Look at Danson up front already, serpentining high and low, trying to break the draft off of the race leader. There's a look off of the back of his Altus Esports Chevrolet, opening up a healthy 2.5 tenths of a second gap back to Kevin King, who's now second. Mills, Horn, Freenosh, your top 5, 6 miles in to this Michigan 200. A lot happening here in the middle of the pack. You saw earlier way down to the apron when a couple of drivers, Bowie hasn't been that low, but still pinched on the bottom. Casto, Tice, and more all fighting for P6 off of 2.
It is worth noting you are allowed to make full use of that apron as far down as you want. The challenge is always, of course, making sure you're back on the racetrack by the time you reach the corner. As somebody that's been down there a couple of times, yeah, it's great to run down there and make moves when you got a good run. And that track's going to tighten up in a hurry, though, once you hit that grass, because it's not going to stay concrete for very long. But so far, everybody's been doing a great job on managing the challenges the track that Michigan can hold. See a lot of the guys further to the back of the pack starting to go single file, whereas it's really the front half of the field that's still going on side by side while Matt Danson is pulling away. That tells me the back portion is willing to just ride around a little bit. They want to take this season. They know there's a lot of laps left. We're not even 10% of the way in. Whereas these guys in the front, they're trying to make moves as quick as they can, knowing those tires are not going to last forever.
Not going to last forever. We reference those 4 additional sets of tires that they can change out over the course of the race, but normally those tire sets do not become a concern in these full throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series races. We'll typically see anywhere from 2 to 3 changes. Rarely do we push it to 4, but again, the ebbs and flows of the greens and the yellows over the course of this race will be a big factor in that. Again, drivers trying to learn from what we saw in Fontana earlier this year. At that point, it was only the second points race in these cars, and Freenosh is into the outside wall off of turn 2. Castro going to go underneath 3 wide, 4 wide now as Kyle Kamer wants to find a gap. He'll drop in line, and Andrew Freenosh getting eaten alive as that Battle Beaver Ford stumbles to regain momentum on the very outside line.
That is a very, very rare mistake there from multi-time defending champion Andrew Freenosh. You have to wonder if maybe he got a little bit arrow tight off of the right rear of Connor Horn's Bernie Levitt's machine. Of course, he was trying to make the pass on the outside line, but as soon as he got to the point where you might be able to consider making that move, that's when he started to get really, really tight, almost following the exact same trajectory that Connor Horn was. That tells me he got arrow pushed up into the wall there.
So Eberhard doing his best to work through the field. No challenge for him to be able to get to the top 10. He was a top 7 car in practice, but clearly missed the mark in that 2-lap qualifying session, starting back in 17th. But he is one of your biggest movers, up 9 positions. In fact, the biggest mover is Eberhard, tied with Kyle Kamer, who's also +9, as Kamer's number 8 Ford up on the outside tries to work his way into the top 5, unable to get all the way to Bowie, your pole sitter who's been able to recover. But it is really interesting. We talk about this draft, and I mean, that's very evident. If we only showed you shots of Kevin King, it would feel like that 31 is your race leader, but Danson was just able to get out of that bubble and is consistently a second ahead of all of the excitement behind him.
And that is one of the few places where Michigan breaks the traditional plate racing style when it comes to how this track drives. It's where you have to lift off in the corners. That is where Matt Danson is gaining all of his time right now. Yes, they have the draft of the straightaways. That's where they start to reel them in. But when they start going side by side like this, they're not able to take a wide arcing line that Danson is. They have to be a little bit more contained in their own little lines. That is what is allowing for Matt Danson to slowly pull this gap out. 10th after 10th, 100th by 100th, lap after lap. It was up to a second and a half at one point, but it looks like Kevin King and Landon Mills have figured out what they want to do. They're starting to run him down.
And doing their best to try to close the gap in as you go on board with Connor Horn. I referenced some of the names that could be looking to improve on how their season's been. Connor Horn's been solid. 4 top 5, 6 top 10s, a race win from earlier in the season when he took home the checkered flag way back in March in Las Vegas. But again, looking to build some momentum headed into the postseason. It's got a great view of this battle. Mills a little bit slow on the outside off of the corner, and it's going to be Bowie underneath, pushed by Brandon Six, the Fontana winner from February. But Brandon Six gets a little bit tight. Almost Ross Chastain's the 26, stays out of him, and he's able to get through and clear. Connor Horn going to now try, but the 8 car, Cal Kamer, right back underneath. It is very difficult for these drivers to try to set something up. When you're in this pack, something's always happening. I thought that was a great opportunity for Connor Horn to gain a position. He only loses one because Kamer was able to find the opening quicker.
Still a lot of drivers choosing different lanes here, still trying to find out where do you want to put your car. You can see Fennerplace looking to the inside, one of the few drivers still running on the inside lane. Sean Castle was thinking about helping him out, decided to tuck in line though between Daniel Eberhard and Grant Davis. Fennerplace does have the upper hand in the middle of these corners, but look at how much he gets sucked in by that draft. As soon as they hit the straightaway, you can already see Sean Castle building the gap over both the 20 and the 24. That's exactly how Matt Danson put out his large gap early on in this race. And now it looks like we might be getting one of those breaks here right around the edge of the top 10.
And right around the edge at the top 10 is where things may start to find a little bit of real estate. You can see your top 10 or so have been able to single file out for the minute. For side-by-side about sees the 20 and Fennerplace on the bottom in that incredibly bright and recognizable yellow and pink Life of a Sim Racer Toyota Camry. He's able to slide up in front of the Sim Racer hub number 24 of Grant Davis. And again, this is just going to continue on and on. You got William Schmidt in the mix. You got Kyle Trudell. You got the 4 car, Nick Silver, Joseph Tice, David Kolb. I mean, tons of drivers in the mid-teens here trying to make some positions and work their way up that KaylaSynthetics.com leaderboard, which at lap 13 has seen Matt Danson lead every single lap of the afternoon thus far here at MIS. But the battle for the race lead is far from on, but you just take a look at the intervals. 0.3 of a second, the gap now from Bowie to Danson. So that huge 1.5 second advantage that he once had is gone. And I'm curious when they get to him, if they're going to try to push and how difficult it may be to actually pass that car that's out front with the clean air.
It'll depend on if Brandon Bowie wants to really go for the glory here, and you can already see about 1/3 of a second exactly now separates the two. I have a feeling though Brandon Bowie is not about to make that pass on that Dancer though, unless he can get Brandon Six up from behind to help him on out. I think that would definitely be what he needs to do. You can't really try to go lone wolf at a track like Michigan. While yes, it does drive different in its own right, you do still need to rely on teamwork don't get your way up there by the end of the race. Kevin King just outside the point of positions. He's also no doubt going to be thinking about how he wants to get himself up into the top 3 and potentially in a position where if he needs to, he can make that slingshot for the race lead happen.
And the other question is, how important is that to him, right? You know that Danson has been looking for this Oval Cup Series win for some time. Of course, he's got a handful of them in the Winter Series when he snapped Andrew for weight bearing on his shoulders. If Danson's going to be a little bit more aggressive than maybe Brandon Bowie's willing to do the tango with, we will see. But no surprise, Brandon 6 is there, primarily because he's a 4-time race winner this year, Nolan. But as I mentioned a couple of times now, he won at Fontana earlier this year as well. So, you know, there's all these different things happening where, you know, I feel like we had a very similar situation back at Pocono, where I feel like there's 4 or 5 different cars that can win this race. It's still early. We'll see if people fade as the night goes on. But, you know, Danson's looked really good, but certainly not as invincible as he looked in the first half.
Now you can see almost the entire field is running single file. The initial melee that is these races at Michigan over the first 10, 15 laps or so has finally settled on out. But that doesn't mean that the field is small. You still have got all the way back to about 36th place or so, separated by just 4 seconds. That is the entire mid-pack, and that is not a long time at all. There's the move for the lead. Brandon Bowie to the inside. The Battle Beavers Camry didn't want to hang around behind for long. Drifting up, almost gets up and into the driver's door of Matt Danson. And now here comes 6. Will he make it 3? No, he's not. He's going to help out Brandon Bowie with the shove. Down the back straightaway. Contact now for the lead. One going around. Brandon Bowie slides inside. Up in the air. A big crash. Slides up. Bleeds out Everhart. That'll be caution number 1.
The caution flag is out, and we pose the question, how aggressive was that battle for the race lead going to become? And it was really just the incidental contact. It was hard to tell why Bowie went up into Danson. I don't know if he got a little bit of help from Brandon 6, but it looks like they kind of just drifted into each other. I don't think 6 made any contact, and we'll take a second look to see what happens, but it's certainly Bowie under Danson. And as they go off into the corner, I thought the 66 got him, but I think he just kind of moved up. They touched in an awkward way. And of course, right there, look at that pop as he hits the edge of the grass. He does his best, sky wheelie, lands it, and then collects Daniel Eberhardt. We talked about already tonight numerous times that Daniel Eberhardt needs good points nights, and not only is that a heartbreaker for Bowie, but that is major playoff implications for Daniel Eberhardt to be the driver collected in that one.
If you ever want to get a good view of what the undercarriage of one of these Gen 7 stock cars looked like, well, that was it. And now we'll see what great sky rendering.
As that is major damage on those cars. Race off of the pit lane, though, goes in favor of Matt Danson. There were some questions on if the 38 car may have had to stay on the pit road to get some damage repaired. Of course, he had a very minimal contact, but it was only on the left side of the race car, and we'll get that picture back to you in just a moment. But he comes in pretty standard service, 4 tires and a fuel. He's also lucky that he is in pit stall number 3, so he's able to just drive straight out without violating the 3 pit stall in and out rule. And Danson will maintain the race lead because every single car came down.
So Danson successfully hangs on to the race lead. He is now caught up to the iRacing safety car just in turn number 3. Good news is that could have been a lot worse. I mean, at that point, the second Brandon Bowie got kicked up into the air like that with all 4 wheels, including then, in fact, the rear diffuser lifted off the ground, you knew right away he was going to be flying right back up the track into the middle of the traffic. But considering he only actually tagged 1 driver initially and then another 3 got involved just avoiding him, out of a group of 37, that happened at the front end of the field, and that's about as good of a result as you can hope for. In that situation, you're not going to have everybody missing the car flying back up onto the course unless that's at the back end of the field. This was as far up as you could possibly get.
Yeah, there's no for him to control that race car, right, to keep it from going up the hill when the car is airborne like that. And again, it's not going to be much solace to Daniel Eberhardt, but it certainly could have been worse because, you know, it could have been a Talladega-style wreck where we take everybody out with that one. No drivers in the battle up front going to take responsibility for the incident, so that one going to get pushed on to a post-race review, and that means that Danson going to keep his track position up front. Brandon DeBuey, who was involved in the incident, is still on pit road, so he will not be present for this restart. Same with Daniel Eberhardt, and again, I mentioned that gap that Eberhardt needed to make up was about 16 points. That's not simply scoring 16, that is outscoring Brian Chambliss by 16 positions over the course of these next few weeks. But if he, fails to resume this race, and it finishes in 40th where he is now, or in the high 30s, then I'm going to have some serious concerns about that story. Again, it's one of the most interesting ones we've been following, and Daniel Eberhardt's bad luck continuing here tonight. Worth noting as well, Dylan Jones had an issue in that first run. His car is not on track, so the restart going to come with 39 cars on the lead lap, and Danson in control to the Geico restart zone. Green flag back in the air.
Good getaway by Matt Danson, sees him clear by 4 in the run down into turn number 1. But this is one of those tracks where you can get run down really, really quickly if you're not careful. Got to watch those cold tires as well. Will Kevin King be able to get the run here on Matt Danson, or has he got just enough gap out that he can potentially be able to serpentine his way down some of these straights and maybe even pull out that same advantage that he had earlier to hang on to that race lead until another yellow flag comes out, provided these guys in second stay side by side like they have been since the drop of that green flag.
They had taken them the better part of that run of 18 laps before they started to spread out, so expect a lot of the same here as Danson's able to lead from the top position and maintain his stranglehold on the field. And you saw Sean Casto's 52 swing down to the inside of the racetrack. Not a lot of real estate, though, for him to work with down there because he's in line behind Brandon 6, and they'll come off of corner number 2 side by side, about 7 or 8 rows deep. Casto going to make the side step up to the outside line. That's where the speed was that time off of turn 2.
It's still side by side, all the rows deep here from about first all the way back to about 14th, 15th place or so. And a good chunk of that is just guys trying to fight for those final top 10 positions. You see them fanning out 3 wide once again down the front straightaway. Cody Harris backs out from the very bottom. That almost checks him up into the Ford Mustang of Nick Silver, but he was able to check up just in time to allow Harris some room to get in to come up and make the corner. Now we are going to be single file all the way back to Rabel, currently running in 9th place, trying to fight it out with David Kolb around the outside line.
And try to make the outside line work, and with a bit of success as that High Banks Podcast 29 Ford, but gets the safer barrier that time there, and it only took about 2-3 miles an hour off, but that was enough to eliminate all the speed that Chris Rabel had cooking up on the outside. So Fetter Place gonna sidestep up to the outside line just like that, defend that position, and now try to get around the 11 and David Kolb. Was got a real nice looking Simucube Toyota Camry down on the bottom. Again, the top side, using those 18 degrees of banking to their advantage. Better on the long straightaways here. Fender Place gets the spot, goes back down to the inside. You're looking off the back of your number 11 car of David Kolb. You can see the 7 back there. That's Kyle Trudell, and he just about got cut off as Thomas George wanted to go to the inside, maybe try to force 3 wide into 1.
Well, he's going to force the 3 wide nonetheless. The Series XM Mustang will be in the middle with Nick Silver right behind. He's got Cato up on top with Kolb down low, as well as Harris 3 wide, 2 rows deep down the back straightaway. This is getting tight. George wanted to make it 4 as he goes all the way down to the white line, but he had nobody to go down to help him out, so he'll instead lose spots, and he'll tuck back into 3 just on the bottom side. You can see Fetter Place in the middle, washed up a bit close to Ross Cato. He had to back out, and that caused Nick Silver to lose some momentum in the middle of the corner as well.
It did, and you saw the 6 back there in line, the darker blue and black Toyota, or Ford, I should say, George, trying to go to the apron to get a pass, but just kind of got sealed off by Fetter Place there in the 20. I mean, just didn't have anywhere to go, and it was forced to get back up in line and try it again. And again, it's not as controlled as Daytona and Talladega. And it does seem a little bit funny saying that, right? Because when we talk about those super speedway tracks, we talk about how uncontrolled they are, right? But the way that that racetrack races is you're in a pack like this, but you can stay directly on somebody's bumper. You know what lane you're going to be in. There's not as many momentum swings in and out of the corner. Whereas here, you're in the pack. That separation is still non-existent, but you're much wider in the corner, you're lifting at different points, you're entering the corner at different markers, which makes it, I think, a lot more dangerous than a Daytona and a Talladega and the unpredictability sense. Up front, though, Kyle Kamer able to clear Danson in 1 and 2, but Danson able to cross him right back over and down to the inside. So the 8 car had a nose in front for a straightaway's worth of racetrack, but Danson gets right back by. Danson has still led every single lap of the afternoon.
Kyle Kamer, though, not about to take that one, lying down, immediately tucks back in. You can physically see him getting closer and closer to the back of the Logitech G Altus Esports number 38 as Kevin King has cleared for third as well, around the likes of Brandon Six made that work into turn number 1. So Kamer now has to try to run down Danson all over again, but he's going to have to run down almost a quarter of a second to do it. You really have to take your chances when you can, but it's always going to be about how will you defend that position afterwards. He made it work on offense, but he left the door way too open on defense, and Matt Danson, he said, pardon me, I'm going to come right through.
And it was a smart move by Danson, too, because he knew that Kamer's move into 1 was really late, so Kamer had to throw it in to clear him, and then by the time he did that, he went back for the crossover, and he was able to get himself through. Should also note, following up from that last incident, guys, Daniel Eberhardt has taken his car to the garage. It will be another DNF finish for the 90 team. Remember, Brian Chambliss, the driver who he mainly needs to make up points on, is having issues in his own right. Chambliss with a broken right front tire on pit road as of a lap ago, but I think overall still with those other drivers that Eberhardt's trying to fight against, he's going to lose more points and is going to get further and further out of the top 25, putting that hopes to get that illustrious and long sought after first full throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series title this season into further jeopardy.
A lot of drivers having some unfortunate luck here at Michigan that they just cannot afford to have. Oh, a bit more of a hip check there. You saw it right up the left side between Kolb and Harris, so that is getting a bit tight as well. We almost had an exact repeat of what happened to Brandon Bowie back before lap 20 of this race. Kamer's caught Danson again. He's going to make the look for the race lead to the inside, pulls alongside. Danson, I think, might lift off the throttle just a little bit. Wanted to give him the space to make the pass work into turn 1 and hope that he overshoots. Looks like he's going to try to once again go for the over-under. Kamer's leaving a bit of a hole open there, but Danson this time not able to power through, and Kyle Kamer will secure the race lead this time by 1 and 2.
So Kyle Kamer goes to the race lead, still looking for his first lap lead of the afternoon, and thought he had it all locked up, but I'll tell you what, he went awfully deep that time into 4. Danson's going to get a run, but it is not going to be enough to get there by the start-finish line and cash in a bonus point for Kyle Kamer. Leads at the end of lap number 32 here in Brooklyn, Michigan. Thought Danson was maybe going to try to Kamer the 8 car and make that aggressive dive down to the inside, but he opted not to do so, and he will stay in line behind, hoping to play a little bit of defense. Let's see if we can take a replay. We were talking about that damage that happened, I believe this was with Chambliss, Nolan, and let's see what happened to the 25 car.
It would have been contact with the 72. The XPM machine just hooked him in the left rear, and that was the hard shot to the wall. You could see snapped the tire rod immediately on Brian Chambliss' number 25. That's why we saw him down into pit road, and that is why he is going to be effectively out of this race after that heavy hit at the worst angle into the outside wall in turn 3.
And that new damage model continues to have an impact in situations where in the past drivers certainly would have had a damaged car, but it really just would have affected overall speed. In that instance, you could see the parts, the physical parts of the race car that were damaged. And because of that, he is unable to continue down to the pit lane. Curious if that's the same reason why Daniel Eberhardt found himself down and out of this race, because the damage, and again, had caused some tie rod damage, wheel damage, whatever specific function or part of the race car that took him out of this one. So a tough break for those couple of drivers. Again, it's going to make the pain of Eberhardt's DNF a little bit less, but he's still losing on everybody else around him, and I would expect that 16-point number that we referenced earlier to grow as we head out of here and go into the third to last race of the regular season next Monday night when we head to the action track at Richmond Raceway. But watching this battle, in the front top 5, top 10, you got Joseph Tice up on the outside of the racetrack. That's Kyle Trudell underneath him, watched closely by William Schmidt, who's been awfully impressive. And Kyle Kamer is one of your biggest movers, guys, but there's starting to be a couple new names getting up here. Harris is up 12 spots, Silver up 11, Anthony DeBarro still in 16th, but he's up 21. So as these longer runs are able to play themselves out somewhat, more cars for the midfield joining in on the action as here comes Danson on the inside, and Kamer just got way out in the weeds in turn number 2, and that was way too easy for Matt Danson to go back to the race lead. And now here comes Kevin King following suit. The team has won the last 3 races. It was the month of July for them, with Eberhardt winning at Atlanta, and then Kevin King taking back-to-back wins at New Hampshire and Pocono. He wants to go for 3 in a row, and he wants to go for the race lead underneath Matt Danson, and new race leader is Kevin King.
Kevin King goes back to the point. You see Kyle Kamer still running that outside lane, trying to fend off Brandon 6 down low. You have to wonder if maybe Kamer's already burned all of his tires up. Ever since he took that lead, he's had a really hard time trying to keep that car pinned right to the bottom while simultaneously keeping speed up like all the other guys in this pack has been doing. As I say that, gets right to the back of Matt Danson in turn number 3, but maybe just trying to nurse his car towards the end of this run. Might have already used up a lot of his equipment just trying to run down Danson initially, and at the end of the day, that has found himself all the way back down in 3rd, but it still could be a lot worse compared to how bad some other drivers' days have gone so far. Danson, he's more than content to just hang around in 2nd place for now. Doesn't feel the need to force the issue by throwing it in on Kevin King from 3 car lengths back just yet.
Top 8 cars may be single file, but they're all still within a second of each other as we are more than 1/3 of the way through tonight's Michigan 200, round number 17 of the 2022 Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. As we talked about earlier, happy that you're with us at RaceSpotTV with our producer Joshua Lee downstairs, Nolan Rempel, and myself, Evan Pasoko, on the call. And only one yellow flag to this point. It was contact in the battle for the race lead on lap 18 that saw Brandon Bowie and Matt Danson get together. It collected championship hopeful Daniel Eberhardt. Both Bowie and Eberhardt out of this race, while Danson continues to run in 2nd to Kevin King, who has won the last 2 races consecutively. Also Brandon 6, the last race winner at a racetrack like this in Fontana earlier this year, has been hovering in the top 5 all night. He wants to go top 3 though for the very first time, and on the inside he is clear of Kyle Kamer, so it's a race high P3 for Brandon 6 now.
And Joseph Tice is looking to put Kamer down one more as the Flat Out Esports number 5 Chevrolet to the inside of Kamer for 4th place into turn 1. Kamer's losing ground, and he's losing it quickly here as the number 5 pushes up. Almost gets into the door of the number 8 off of turn 2, just able to keep it out. That'll give Kamer a little bit of breathing room down the back straightaway, but it's still going to be alongside right at the left rear tire into turn number 3 for that number 5 car. He's got Kyle Trudell right behind him to give him a hand.
And just watching how there's really no lap at which these drivers can just take a minute to ride with this new next-gen car and the racetrack like this. Of course, I referenced earlier tonight to Far Cry from the days of 215 into the corner and, dropping to 40 miles an hour through the center. There's definitely lifting, no longer full throttle all the way through, but again, there's just so much draft in these cars on the iRacing service that it's extremely difficult for drivers to get away, and every single lap is a landmine of different ways to make a mistake and screw up and lose positions. As Kyle Kamer wants to get up with those top three, but off of turn 4, it's William Schmidt who washes just a little bit wide. He was trying to clear Joseph Tice, and he's going to get a bit of a saving grace here as that 7 car, Kyle Trudell's going to push him at 196 miles an hour into turn 1. Listen, they're still getting up there, almost cracking 200 with the bump draft there, and that'll help push not only Schmidt clear the 5 car, but 7 in tow. So both Trudell and Schmidt able to get around Joseph Tice, who has to tuck back in line in P7.
And a good single file run at the moment. You can see a top 7 starting to break away from Joseph Tice, who's finding himself under fire from the Simulcube machine of David Cobb further down in the field. The field is now about as spread out as it's been all day long, but that is still not saying all that much, with this entire field separated by just 10 seconds and the main pack separated by only 7 seconds from nose to tail. So it is still an incredibly close fight, and hey, that's what we like to see. We absolutely love to see these guys being able to race super competitively like that. It makes it a real entertaining show for us to watch, but no doubt it is only stress down there in this field at the moment, as especially these guys from the midfield, they have got to be waiting for when that dreaded caution will ring out from the spotters.
Yeah, we had the 1 earlier in this one. We've now matched the distance of that run, so you're looking at the longest green flag run of the afternoon, and only 6.5 laps away from being halfway home in this Michigan 200. If you're not always with us every Monday evening here for the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series, these races half the distance of our NASCAR Cup Series counterparts, so 200 miles of action on the docket here this afternoon, and Kevin King pretty comfortable up front, the 3rd different car to lead laps tonight. Again, 2 race wins in a row, looking to become the first driver to get 3 in a row here this season, after already becoming the first driver to get back-to-back ones. Brandon Sick still has the most wins this year with 4, but Kevin King has won the last 2 and looking to do 3 in a row. That has only happened a handful of times in RSR history, and I'm willing to bet even less if you take the name Andrew Freenosh off the list, because I'm sure he occupies many of those record-breaking streaks through the years. Of course, Freenosh, the 4-time defending series champion from 2018, 19, 20, and 21, but has had a bit of an adjustment period, struggling to adapt to these next-gen cars. There he is, getting a bump draft from Jeremy Miller in the battle for 25th and 26th position. Andrew did start this race in 5th, Nolan, so it's not that he doesn't have speed, but has gotten himself relegated back here. Not to say that he's having a bad year. Already has a race win. He's well locked into the playoffs, 7th in the standings, but just not the Freenosh that we have seen of old, and one has to think, unless he can learn more about this car, which again, he's very open, doesn't fit his driving style. He's a fan of the high horsepower, low downforce stuff, and I think he's certainly a fan they gave these cars a little bit more oomph than they originally wanted to, but it seems like a year primed for somebody to finally dethrone the king of real sim racing.
I think it's one of those races where, it's one of those championships this year where, yes, it's still going to be very much a competitive year for Andrew Freenosh, but it's going to be a lot bit more of an uphill climb as opposed to beating the ones down from the very top of that hill. He's the one that's got to start making his way up the rungs, because it's not like he's at the top of the ladder like he was back when the Gen 6 car was being ran in this league. He is having to climb those rungs just as high as anybody else, and when you look at the stats for the course of the season, it can very much be argued that Freenosh has not been climbing the rungs as fast as some of the other drivers have been so far in this series. You see a lot of chaos going on up here. Bit of contact between Michael Johns and Thomas George once, almost twice. And meanwhile, Brandon Fetterplay saw what was going on there and wanted no part in 4 wide. He backed out from the inside before they even hit each other.
And you can see that 6 car going to hold the bottom, so Freenosh going to try to continue that march to the front, where we still see Kevin King held the race lead. He's now led 11 laps in this one, still well able to try to snag the extra bonus point. Remember, Danson led the opening 32 of this one, so if that number stands as the most laps led by any driver, then he would get the second bonus point. For the most laps led, those are the only bonus points available to anybody in the field, is a lap led and then the most laps led. But with 52 laps to go that time by, anybody can still walk away with that title this afternoon. It's King, 6, Danson, Schmidt, and Trudell, your top 5. Trudell wants to change that. You saw that gray nose sticking out a little bit. Kamer also sticking a nose out, trying to make something work, but it's the white Toyota back there of Anthony DeBarro who's going to be going down to the inside line, trying to get around the 8 car, and Kamer just missed the entry there. He's not going to be able to play defense at all, and it's not only going to give a spot to DeBarro, but coming through, Cobb clears himself as well, but Kamer going to cross right back underneath. Does not want to make it easy.
Oh, getting a bit close there up to the door. David Cobb is not about to let him make the arc that he necessarily wants to make, but he's going to make it regardless. As Kyle Kamer was not able to hold it to the bottom, and sure enough, look at that, he's going to wash up, and here comes Chris Rabel. At the moment, Kyle Kamer is on damage control. He has been unable to regain the pace that he had at the start of this race. He's gone from fighting for the race lead to struggling to stay inside the top 10, and he was just booted outside of the top 10 by Chris Rabel. So you can see definitely Kyle Kamer used up a lot of that stuff early on in the run, and he has just had no pace for the last 10 laps or so.
Yeah, just struggling, and this is the point in the race when you're in traffic, when other people are starting to figure things out. You're on a long run where you might start to see a little bit of fall off, right? The last lap for your race leader, Matt Danson, at 41.697. That is more than 1.2 seconds slower than his best lap of the night at 39.534. So it shouldn't be surprising, as almost contact right there between Burke and Kamer in a battle for 11th and 12th position, as Burke was really just trying to get in line and got about that left rear quarter panel of the 8 car. But you know, the way that these races play out is everybody took 4 tires at lap 20. There's definitely fall off, and expect, of course, under green for that to happen. But I think any subsequent yellows, long runs means that drivers are going to want 4. You're not going to see a ton of people trying to mix things up in strategy, as we're finally seeing a little bit of a break. Those top 6 right there trying to open up a gap. They've got about 6/10 back to Anthony DeBarro in 7th position, and as they race down the back straightaway, advantage to the 5 Joseph Tice. He's going to be able to stay ahead of the 7-9 William Schmidt. Schmidt going to drop 2 spots in one lap as both the 7 and the 5 clear him through 1 and 2 and down the back straightaway.
I thought for a moment Brandon Six was going to make a move on Kevin King and the team machine for the lead, but he decided to stick around and behind. And I think it's that mentality that's allowed them to build this big gap. They're not racing each other. They are very much just working together in an effort to try and figure this thing out. We are over halfway through this race. There is under 50 laps left to go, and this could very prove to be the longest green flag run that could go to the finish if we end up getting green flag pit stops under this latest run.
And as we enjoy the battle for the race lead, we are past halfway home in this Michigan 200. So let's catch you up on where all of your favorite drivers are running and take a look at our Kayla Synthetics midway race break. Kevin King started second, but it took until about lap 30 for him to get to the race lead. He is on top with 47 laps to go in this race, ahead of the second place runner, Brandon Six, who has led no laps so far this afternoon, but has gained 8 after starting in 10th. Then you'll find Matt Danson. He controlled the opening 32 laps of the race. He sits in 3rd, ahead of Kyle Trudell in 4th, doing his best defensive driving to stay ahead of that number 5 car, Joseph Tice, behind him in 5th. William Schmidt closes out the top 6 bow tie dominance, all Chevrolets through the top 6, and then you'll find Anthony DeBarro's number 37 machine. I should say started 37th. He's the 2070 car in 7th. He is your biggest mover by far, plus 30 spots on the afternoon. David Cobb's behind him. Cobb's sitting in the number 8 position right now. Casto, the first driver in the red, down a spot from where he started in 9th. That's going to be short-lived. Burke gets around him, so you can kick Casto back to P10.
and that will then put the likes of Cody Harris down in P11 with Tom Wetmore running in 12th currently. Chris Rabel is up 6. He is running 14th place in his High Banks podcast Ford Mustang. Sam Nieto is sitting in a comfortable 15th. He is plus 25 on the day. So an impressive drive for Sam Nieto, looking to go up a little bit further. Interestingly enough, though, Kyle Kamer, he's one of the few drivers that you mentioned before is kind of on the route to losing a few spots. He has started 15th place. He is now all the way down in 16th. It's Lando Mills that has just overtaken him, excuse me, as Kyle Kamer is being swarmed. He's down to 17th now. Michael Johnson is 18th with Connor Horn at 19th. Lariah under fire by Nick Silver for 20th.
And continuing on through 21st position is Jeremy Miller at the moment. He is ahead of the best to ever do it, Andrew Freenosh right there. We talked about that battle. He sits in 22nd behind that 3 wide about just in front of them. Ross Catos is behind them in 23rd. Jaron Winemaster's 24th. And Eric Papadow sits in 25th. It has not been a good afternoon for Brandon Fetter Place after he started in 7th. He's down in 26th position. Harry Grindle, 27th. Rhett McBride back in 28th. Big losses for Grant Davis, who's down 18 from where he started in 29th position. And Tim Johnston rounds out your top 30. That's about 11 seconds off of the race lead.
Christian Malcharek got into Brian Chambliss entering turn 3. He's about a dozen, 2 dozen laps ago or so, and that is what saw Brian Chambliss wreck out of this race. He is running all the way back in the 31st with no real competition at the moment. Braden Whitaker runs in 32nd with Renate Major in 33rd. Tom Morano is in 34th with Chris Edwards 35th, but still plus 7 where he started. I mean, he did not take a qualifying lap. He's the last driver on the lead lap. Sean Kalis is in 36th place. Thomas George, DNF from this race. He just pulled into pit road 9 laps ago and retired. He runs 37. He runs 37th. Brian Chambliss, mentioned before, he got into the wall. He is back on track, 16 laps down, running 38th. And that will leave Michael Kuczynski, who is still in pit road from the initial caution. Brandon Bowie went for a high-flying ride early in this race. He runs 40th. Again, still on track, but 32 laps down. And that will put Daniel Eberhard all the way down in 41st, while Nick Silver hits pit road.
A tough break for, of course, Bowie and Eberhardt for what the night could have been for them. But that's a look top to bottom at your KaylaSynthetics.com midway race break. Kayla Synthetics is an authorized independent dealer of AMSOIL lubricants in between. They have the products and expertise to help you save time and money. Dealer number 300-71815. Always happy to have Kayla Synthetics on board with us here on a Monday night with the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. The next time by, going to be 40 laps to go. These drivers have been out for 40 laps since we pitted under the one and only yellow thus far tonight. So I gotta think, as some drivers towards the rear, Horn, Cato, Major, Papineau, Edwards on pit road. Nolan, how far are we away from seeing those race leaders decide to come down in?
I'm willing to bet some of them will come down a bit sooner than others, and Nick Silver just exited pit road, and he is flying up on the back end of some of your leaders here, and it could prove to be a little bit tight, as I think Silver kind of lucked out that he came out near the front of this field and not towards the very hot and heavy midfield battle all the way at the back of this thing. And just as the group of 4 that came down pit road earlier leaves pit road, in comes a new 4. Grendel is in, so is Malcharek, and others like Chris Rabel down pit road at the moment as well. So there is a good host of drivers all started to come in, and I think we're going to be seeing them trickling in a few at a time over the next 10 laps or so.
Yeah, we'll see who's going to be the first one to make that play from these race leaders, which is obviously going to have a pretty big impact. And Kyle Trudell wants to come in from the top 10, so you'll see him with the red highlight on that Kayla Synthetics leaderboard start to drop down. A lot of drivers going to be in the green. Again, those aren't quality passes. Those are simply drivers making up positions in bulk as somebody in front of them decides to come down pit road. You could also expect the undercut to not be terrible, right? I mentioned that there's more than 2 seconds of fall off, so if you get onto the fresh rubber quick, you're instantly going to get some track position. So it might be a good move for somebody who's actively in a battle with 2 or 3 race cars. Of course, you'll have the negative end of that on the backside when your tires get older a little bit sooner. But if you feel like I've got a little bit more speed and I'm kind of stuck with the cars that I'm racing around, short pitting not a terrible idea. But up front, there's enough separation where I don't think it's that much of a factor. As side by side to pit road, we see Andrew Frenosh and David Cobb, Widemaster and Miller also down pit road ahead of them, again expecting nothing other than 4 tires and fuel for the drivers who are making their scheduled bit of service. Frenosh heads down and into the pit lane, back in pit stall number 5. You'll see the right sides of that race car go up first. Fuel is obviously being put in the entire time. It's going to go over to the left-hand side of the race car. That side going to get jacked up as well, and I feel like the virtual pit crews, Nolan, over time are going to start to get quicker and quicker. 14.6 on that 4-tire stop, and Frenosh is off and away. No takers from the top 3. Still waiting on King, 6, and Danson to decide that it is worth it. Fetter place, though, in from 17th.
There's no more satisfying thing in a track like Michigan than watching somebody on completely burned up rubber slide it into his pit box absolutely flawlessly from about a whole pit stall back when he locks up those front tires. Frenosh absolutely executed on that pit stop there, and that will surely translate into a spot or 2 gained by the end of the pit run. You can see a lot of drivers with a lot more speed seemingly on the racetrack. That is drivers that have already come on down into pit road, and they are all just trying to cycle the way and unlap themselves from drivers that have yet to come on down to pit. That's always the riskiest thing at a track like this, where the corners are so long and the advantage is so great on fresh tires as opposed to old rubber. It is very easy to run somebody over or be the one getting run over. It's one of those things where it's all about coordination. They often say hold your line, they'll find a way around you. That is always true for lap traffic being lapped by the leaders, but it's certainly true for lead lap cars being lapped or unlapped by lap traffic that's on, 30 lap fresher tires than you.
Yeah, Andrew Frenosh, one of the drivers who is pitted, is about to make his way around the leaders, but Matt Danson going to make the call from 3rd. Danson down pit road. Tice going to be down pit road about 2 seconds behind him on pit road, so those are some top 6 race cars that have decided to come down pit road. They'll cross underneath the flags of the United States and Canada by the start-finish line into their pit stalls, and they will get what everybody, I think, hopes is going to be the final stop of the night, because if this thing stays green, they can go the distance with what they're going to be putting on board. Here's a look at Kevin King up front. He is going to decide to stay out as he gets lapped by Frenosh and company. 6 stays out, but Anthony DeBarro will come down pit road from the number 3 position, so he will be in. It sounds like Landon Mills also going to be trickling down to the pit lane. He is indeed. There he is, the 26 car coming in from 11th. And a bit of a misstop there for the 27th, is missing his stall on the stop there and losing a couple of precious seconds was Anthony DeBarro.
Danson is back out of pit road and is now looking to trying to regain lost time. I think it is a bit notable that Matt Danson, despite being on 20 lap older tires compared to everybody else at the end of that last run of stops, was still running consistently up in the around the middle of the top 10 or so, and we'll no doubt be seeing him cycle back through to that position once pit stops are all said and done. 33 laps to go as of right now. Loraya and Nieto have both just come down into pit road nose to tail, and we're still waiting to see when the leaders are going to come on in, and big problems actually for the 2 and in fact the 44 on pit road. Nieto missed his stall by 4, 5,
wow.
Still backing up. He's going to get disqualified. Keeps going backwards. You will get DQ'd by backing up a pit road too far. Able to save himself there, but that is not the first time I've actually seen that. I actually remember this very vividly back last year when I was commentating Friday Night Primetime for the IMSA Sports Car Challenge. Somebody missed their pit stall, backed up over half of pit road, got disqualified for going the wrong way.
Looks like Nieto going to avoid the black flag, but he definitely would have had that warning popping up on his screen, and he almost missed pit road entirely. I mean, that was just a mess For Sam Nieto is Michael Johnson in for service, Cody Harris, Rhett McBride, a little bit more successful on their entries. And as I said, that McBride a little bit too deep. He has to back it up, and sounds like Kevin King over the radio says that he will be giving up the race lead. Is Brandon 6 going to follow? 9 laps after the pit cycle began, first and second are on pit road, 55 miles an hour.
You saw Brandon 6 start to lock up the rear tires a little bit there on pit entry. That is a very risky thing to do. How many times have we seen drivers getting a little bit out of shape when entering pit road? In fact, we even just saw it with the driver way at the back of Tom Wetmore. You saw him fishtailing around a little bit on pit entry. So very lucky there not to overshoot pit road and not to lose control on entry. It will be about the 5th time this week that I've seen somebody do that. You can see Grant Davis pulling into his pit stall. Right behind, that will cycle Kyle Kamer through to the race lead, who will lead another lap. But Kamer, of course, is yet to pit. Now, I think Kyle Kamer has realized he's not the best later in the run of fresh rubber, so he's hoping to pit at the end of this run here and then make up all of that ground by having 8, 9, maybe even 10 lap fresher tires as some of the other drivers in this field.
And as Kevin King leads Brandon 6 off of the pit lane, how they entered it, so he doesn't lose a position there, he is going to cycle out to 18th position. So that means by staying out those additional 9 laps, even, for some of the drivers who pitted as many as 12 laps ago, it has cost Kevin King and Brandon 6 17 to 18 positions on the racetrack. Now, again, they're faster cars than those people in the, mid to top 10 range, so they're going to make that time up, plus the better tires. But, of course, they're going to need this race to stay green now for them to be able to work their way through and get those spots back up. After this, your net leader is that man right there. It is Kyle Trudell and the Extreme Performance Motorsports Chevrolet. He is up by 3.5 seconds on Nick Silver P2. Matt Danson sitting in 3rd. But it looked like the first car to pit out of everybody was indeed Nick Silver, so he has the oldest tires out of anybody at 13 laps old in 2nd.
Under 30 laps left to go. We are in the final third now of this race as Edwards will make his latest stop down into pit road. Chris Edwards had just left pit road a few moments ago on lap number 70, and now he is back down and in and going to be taking service. He is already a lap down, but it was a clean entry. We'll be seeing him likely stay that lap down, maybe even 2 now for the remaining duration of this race. You can also see at the moment the number 34 of Brandon Bowie in the Battle Beaver Toyota Camry. Holy cow, a little bit of a strong there for me as Bowie continues to make his way up, trying to recover, but 32 laps down, I think at this point he's hoping for some drivers to DNF.
Yeah, and listen, that's going to make a little bit of a difference, right? Unfortunately for him is there hasn't been a yellow since. There's been some minor incidents, but, Thomas George has gone to the garage. He will likely overtake him, so, it's going to be a 1-point difference, if any. But you got to remember the way that the points are seeded in this championship following the NASCAR Cup Series is eventually that point per position difference kind of expires, right? Once you get down to 36th, anything beyond there is only 1 point. So if he's not going to get above to 35th, he's going to get 1 point regardless. So maybe that's why Daniel Eberhard opted not to fight through. But I think Eberhard, again, if he could have fought through, got a couple of those single digits over the year, it may have helped him out. So kudos to Brandon Bowie for just trying to fight through this one and make it to the end. I believe we have a second look at what happened with the 2-0. And of course, we caught the back end of it, but there's a lot that happened here. Watch this. He's going to try to get onto the pit lane, and first he's almost going to miss it, right? He's got a car behind him on entry. He maybe feels like he needs to drive it a little bit aggressive, but right here he's really wide into the grass, and then he gets on pit road, and I don't know if he couldn't get into the box because Lariah was there or Lariah just blocked his view, but then right here he realizes it, and he has to go way back. I mean, 4 to 5 pit stalls for the 2 car, and by the time it was said and done, he spent 1 minute and 4 seconds on pit road. That's about 24 seconds more than most cars. Well, there is Kyle Trudell just awaiting his challenger. Danson was able to overtake the driver on the oldest of old that we talked about, Nick Silver, who is sitting in the number 3 position. And Danson is now 1.2 seconds off of Trudell. There is no doubt that he will get there, guys. But Kevin King has already passed 12 cars since he got off pit road. King is up to P5. Brandon Six is hot on his heels, and I suspect they will be on the scene in a handful of laps too.
So I think I've managed to get my stuff sorted here, and now I'm using the correct button here to actually speak on the interwebs. I think what most likely happened there with Nieto on that pit stop there, Evan. I think he obviously knew where his pit stop was. It's not the first stop he's made all night long. I think he was more focused on Lariah, though, and where he was, considering he was being actively overtaken. And by the time he realized he was clear, he realized, oh, wait, my pit stall is about 5 stalls back behind me. I should have been hitting the brakes a lot harder as soon as I actually entered pit road. So Danson's now, as you mentioned, running up in second place, trying to run down Trudell for the lead. I feel he's going to get them before long, considering Danson came down a bit more towards the end of that last pit stop run there.
And he's surprising, you know, with the exception of a couple of cars overshooting and needing to back up, a surprising lack of major failures, right? There seems to always be on a green flag pit cycle because people don't always practice that, Nolan. We don't see it every week, right? So some people don't put in that time. You know, every once in a while there's somebody who overshoots it, misses it, wrecks coming out of pit road, especially with the closing rate that we saw. I think we were really fortunate to be able to get through that cycle as clean as things relatively were. And this may be the lap for Matt Danson, but I don't think Danson's going to win this race just based on the speed that I'm seeing out of the cars behind. But he could try to notch a couple of laps in his favor for the most lap lead battle tonight. Kevin King has led 33 to Danson's 32, but I think it is going to go in favor of either King or Six either way tonight. Again, they stayed out. They gave up 16 spots, but trusted it would stay green, used their speed, and you can see on that Kayla Synthetics leaderboard, 3.4 seconds, the gap for them. Danson may have to wait another lap, though. Kyle Trudell running nice, clean laps, not making it too easy for the 38 car.
Despite what it says, we are under 0.2 of a second now between Danson and Kyle Trudell in the run for the race lead with 21 laps currently remaining. So Matt Danson in the Logitech GLBZ Sports machine running down the Extreme Performance Motorsports Chevrolet and right up the road. Middle lap traffic in the form of Sean Kalis as well as Jeremy Miller. One car slow on the apron in turn 3 and now stopped at the apron, and that's going to be a yellow flag as Chris Edwards stopped on the bottom of turn number 3 with a blow motor.
And the caution flag is out, and Kevin King cannot believe it because King and Six were primed to cycle through to the race lead. And then Chris Edwards, only thing I can think of, Nolan, is that he money shifted it and blew it up off of turn number 2, but I would have thought that 130 miles an hour off of 2 would have provided enough speed for him to coast to pit road, but instead he decided to stop and tow. And that brings out the yellow, and that is an unfortunate way for this race to be flipped on his head.
And you actually hit the nail on the head there. It was indeed a money shift. 5th to 4th, too quick on entry to turn 1. The motor let go immediately. He might have had enough to get there, but by the time he had fully pulled off, oh no, sorry, he already realized what was going to happen, so he was already slowing up a little bit on the exit of turn 4, realizing what was probably about to happen. The motor let go in the middle of the back straightaway, actually. That's why he pulled off immediately to the inside, let Tom Lorano go, and honestly, with how slow he was already going by the time he entered turn 3, that was probably going to be a yellow flag regardless. It was just a matter of where he was on track when it came out.
Yeah, I think the second you lose the engine, you put it into neutral, you got plenty of speed to get around, and you just wanted to get off the racetrack, and it's a rookie mistake to park it on the apron because iRacing doesn't differentiate that from an incident. It brings out a yellow, and how about this? We got an all-new ball game. Some of these drivers were on pit road as many as 12 laps ago, others 24 laps ago, so maybe for the first time tonight, we may see some variance in the pit strategy. A couple of the drivers overshooting the boxes. Kyle Trudell for the race lead, get it up to go for 4 tires. Looks like most of the other cars on the pit lane going to do the same. And as we race off of pit road, the 7 of Trudell stays in front, but barely. over Matt Danson. That'll put Trudell to second because Kyle Kamer, who pitted 11 laps ago, has stayed out. He was scored in 8th position, and he is the only driver to skip pit service, and Kyle Kamer is your new race leader.
Yellow flag for the second time, and it's strange. We've now had cautions on both ends of the spectrum. We had one where it was an extremely wild wreck where you had a car go airborne attempting to take flight into turn 3, and then another one where it was as simple as a motor letting go. You cannot get a bit farther away from climatic to anticlimactic than that on what brought the green flag run to an end. Brandon Bowie is still out, but obviously being so many laps down, I imagine he's just going to be looking to get a lap back. At this point, there's no possible way that he could get up onto the lead lap, even if he was the only car lap down. There's only 19 laps to go. That would still make him about 13-ish laps down by the time he gets through. And in fact, Brian Chambliss, who is 16 laps down, he is at serious risk of ending up in the same boat here before long.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for those cars. Chris Edwards, of course, taking responsibility for the incident. That will not change the dynamics of this restart because he is short one engine, which I am told is a critical part of the race car. So he's not going to be able to restart regardless. The wave around goes to Morano, so we'll have 35 drivers on the lead lap. And something tells me, after only seeing 2 yellows through the opening 75 some odd laps of this race, that we are about to see many more, because listen, we've seen how aggressive these restarts have been, and now we're going to see what happens when everybody knows that the battle for the race lead hangs in the balance. So just to recap, it was only Kyle Trudell who decided, or so I should say Kyle Kamer, who decided not to come down pit road. He is on 12-lap-old 4 tires. Everybody else, even though some had been out there for a substantially shorter amount of times than others, have decided to go for 4. So they have almost all burned 3 of their 4 additional sets of tires, which we discussed earlier in this race. And you better buckle up, because you're about to see a whole lot of Talladega in the Irish Hills here in Brooklyn, Michigan. Pace car down and in. The number 8 car decides to choose the inside line for this restart. To the Geico restart zone we go. Green flag in the air. 17 laps to go at Michigan.
And just like Matt Danson on the first restart of the night after our first yellow flag, Kyle Kamer out to a flying start, but unlike Matt Danson, getting reeled in a huge hurry. Danson's already alongside, and he's going to make the pass work for the race lead. So Danson is through by the time they get off of turn number 1. That was a bad call for Kyle Kamer to stay out. He is now going to get swarmed by the pack as we're 3 wide into turn number 3.
3 wide they go, off and into turn number 3. Up front, trying to keep it 2 wide to the very inside now. Kevin King wants to get back up front. He felt like this was his race to lose. Danson going to lead his 33rd lap of the afternoon. He's now tied with Kevin King for the most laps led. 4 wide behind them as it is Schmidt on the very bottom. It'll funnel down to 3, but up front, Danson chased by Trudell for 1st and 2nd. And now Brandon 6 to the inside, pushed by Silver, looking for P2.
Gonna get alongside Trudell's XPM machine, get into the tight contact between the 66 and the 7. Right behind the battle for 2nd place. Kyle Trudell hangs on, and Brandon 6 will back out, and he'll sit down in 3rd. 3/10 between Trudell and Matt Danson. That is equivalent to about 5 car lengths all the way down the front straight with the Mad Dash to turn number 1. 15 laps left to go here from the Michigan International Speedway, and it's all to play for with drivers still fanning out 3-4 wide like it's the last lap out of turn number 2.
And so far, so good. up front, but the 4 car, the 67 that time, they were on each other's door. This is the bit of the field that you need to watch out for. All of that battling going on right around P10 is going to be the calamity point if this thing falls apart. And again, if I was a betting man, I would say that somebody's going to end up in the grass or the fence before we are done here this afternoon at MIS. But it's hard to tell where to look, right? Every single time through, outside's trying to get a run, cars at the bottom, trying to find a spot in line. What I can tell you is the top 5 are single file, and the battle between Horn and Silver is for P6 down the back straightaway. Danson still leading over Kyle Trudell.
And all over the place, you've still got drivers weaving left, weaving right, looking for those middle lines, the low lines, the high lines, wherever their car happens to be comfortable at that particular sector where everybody is trying to go at the same time. One car spinning off into the infield grass, and it's a crash down the front straightaway and into turn number 1. There is going to be a yellow flag for this one. You see Grant Davis stopped in the infield grass. He was not the cause of the yellow flag, though. That, in fact, came from Jeremy Miller when he slid up, collected Rhett McBride, as well as actually Christian Maltrek, who's already been involved with his fair share of incidents tonight.
Yeah, the NASCAR Wheel and Euro Series driver Malcherik has not had a fun time so far involved in the accident. You'll see it there. It looks like a connection issue with Connor Horn, and he ends up into the grass. And then you referenced Jeremy Miller. Miller goes up the hill. There's the contact with the 17 machine, which turns around and spins out Christian Malcherik. I'll tell you what, Rhett McBride is really lucky to have not been in that one. The 15 car had a narrow escape, got a little bit of damage. He got clipped on the left rear, but I'm not seeing too much damage to the race car actually showing. Let's take a look. You're going to start wrecking ahead. Yeah, gets a tap there, but good job of hanging on to that car, and McBride going to maintain the track position because of it.
It's a half-decent save from Maltrek as well. Obviously, he got up into the outside wall, but there's nothing he can do about that. But immediately after that hit, he finished off the 360 spin, just brought it right around and kept going. Didn't really even have to lose all that much speed. So a lot of drivers doing some good job to keep the cars out of each other and the walls, especially Grant Davis in that 24 car, as he had slid all the way down. He could have slammed into the pit wall there that is right on the front straightaway. He managed to jerk the car back to a hard right, kept it out of that wall. Good thing he had a whole lot of grass to work with down there. Oh,
and what a call by Kevin King. Decides to pit from the top 5. Many other drivers behind him aborted that, went through the grass in some instances. And he will be joined by many cars in the back half of the field. But after having only done 8 laps, half of which were under the yellow flag, he is in for service, and 18 other cars will decide to stay out. So what a gamble for Kevin King. Will that pay off for the driver of the 31 car? He will exit pit road first of those who pitted on 4 tires, but now scored in 19th.
One of the drivers that went through the grass there was Connor Horn. Now, is there any rule against that? Is that up to iRacing? He never really passed the pit-in line, technically.
I think the only rule in iRacing is you can't go past the commitment cone, and that's well into the grass, so I don't think anything's wrong with that. Went through the grass, but was still, 50, 60 feet from the cone, so I think he'll be fine.
I'll say that's some dedication, wanting to get back out onto the racetrack, and you have to wonder what this will mean for the guys in the back, because they didn't come down to pit road all too long ago. They did come in long enough for that to actually be very much a factor, but a lot of these guys, they only pitted 8 laps ago. So it'll be a real big question here, especially for Kevin King. Is he going to be able to get out and up in front by the time that this race ends? Because I'm not so sure he's going to be able to make that much time up.
Yeah, that's going to be the challenge, right? He'll obviously have a tire advantage, but I struggle to see where he'll have enough of an advantage to pass 19 race cars. There's going to be 9 laps to go when this race restarts. I think the best news for him would be some yellows, right? I think that he would love to get 7-8 laps in, then get a yellow, get to overtime so he can close the gap back in. But I will never say never, because I have been wrong many a time before. But it will certainly be a challenge. And again, Kevin King obviously frustrated with the yellow that was caused by Chris Edwards missing a shift and accidentally downshifted instead of upshifting off of turn number 2 on lap 81 because he was pretty much set to cycle through to the race lead, finishing at worst, first or second if this thing had stayed green. And now he finds himself 19th. Fresher tires, but I don't know. I don't like it.
Going to be coming to the green flag with 9 remaining in this race. Trudell will be up top with Danson down low. Behind them it's 6 and Freenage making a huge resurgence from where he was earlier on in this race. Silver and Horn bring up row number 3. Pace car is going to be down and in. It's time for the last mad sprint to end off this race in Michigan. Let's see if we can make it through to the green flag, as once again entering that Geico restart zone. And from the bottom lane, Danson launches. We're underway.
Four wide and 2 spinning in front. It's Andrew Freenage. Tice is involved, and it is a massive accident off of turn number 2. Caution number 4 of the afternoon is out.
Well, we made it 2 corners. It's better than 1, but not nearly as well as I think a lot of these guys were hoping for. I was honestly watching Connor Horn. I thought that's where that whole mess is going to come from. Excuse me, DeBarro. I was watching DeBarro and one of the team machines down there. I was not expecting for that to come from Kyle Trudell and Andrew Freenage and Brandon Sings, but once again, one of the worst places where you could have seen cars getting shot sideways was right there, but a good chunk of the field did a great job of wrestling it back under control. As we take a look at one of the race spot replays to see how this restart went so wrong.
I think the key is going to be looking for Brandon Six, right? He's the black number 66 on the inside. He's going to lose out on this restart, right? The outside's going to be better off, and as they come through the corner, he's going to go up a little bit. You'll see a small bobble, right? The 7's coming down, but right there, right? A bit of a twitch. He goes up, gets into the 7, he gets sideways, and when Freenage hits him from behind, Freenage gets tagged by the 4 car. He gets turned in front of the traffic, and that is where everybody gets taken out. And listen, I know I'm still doubtful on if Kevin King can win this race, but Kevin King had a spectacular view getting through that wreck as the 31 car dove to the inside to avoid it and picked up 5 spots just like that.
You know who else had a great job getting through that? Sean Kalis. He had to really work that car all the way to the inside. We're still trying to fishtail it. We'll look from Kevin King first. I'd love to see a view from Kalis as well when we wrap this one up. It's a little bit cut off there by the number 20 car in the middle of 1 and 2. And I imagine he's fully focused on that machine in front of him. All of a sudden there's smoke, and whoops, I'm going to go to the inside here. Excuse me, coming through. And that's a wreck avoided.
Let's see what Chris Rabel saw from on board his number 29 Ford Mustang. He's behind Sean Kalis right up the road. You'll see the contact happens way on the horizon off at turn number 2. And that is it's a lot of throttle. Sideways, and he will eventually reel that thing in. But tell you what, it took him a long time to get out of the gas.
And I can tell you right now, he didn't get sideways as a result from that wreck. He did it trying to avoid Ross Cato, who was also avoiding this whole mess, just trying to avoid it himself. So that's a prime example of how sometimes a wreck can be complicated by drivers running into each other, trying to avoid it. Huge props, though, to Kalis for realizing what Cato was about to do and cranking that thing down low just to avoid making that worse. He saved both himself and Cato a huge headache worth of damage.
And also, to be frank, other drivers, they'll see a wreck ahead of them, and they're going to see it as an opportunity to gain positions, and that's why some drivers will drive more aggressively, especially at a racetrack like Michigan, which I think we were very lucky with how wide that apron was. I mean, you've got 2 to 3 more racing surfaces worth of room down on that apron, and I think the location of that I think was a big reason why so many drivers were able to avoid that. Without that, I mean, several drivers would have been into the inside wall and heavily damaged, but unable to do so. So another quick caution flag. We pick up the pieces. Lights already back out on top of the iRacing pace car. Second time in a row, no driver going to claim responsibility for the incident, so both the lap 88 and lap number 92 incidents will go to a post-race review, and we get set to try this one again. As mentioned, Kevin King gained spots. In fact, everybody who pitted last time gains positions. All the cars on 4 fresh tires are now 14th position on back. King, Casto, and Grindle, the first 3 drivers on fresh tires. That means, of course, the top 13 cars still the drivers on 13 lap old tires.
5 laps left to go. We know how hectic restarts at Michigan can be. We have seen them not just in RSR competition across its various series, but also across dozens upon dozens of other series in the past year. Evan, with all that in mind, with the field still this size, what do you think odds are if we go to overtime?
Well, I always say if I'm a betting man, and that fits the theme of Las Vegas, I would say that this is not going to be the final restart of the afternoon, but the house always wins, so you can never be too sure how these ones are going to play out. Either way, in store for a very exciting end to this Michigan 200. Pace car off, dance it again, has to wait for the Geico restart zone. He's the control car on the inside. Green flag in the air, 5 laps to go.
Trouble behind, a big crash, entering turn 1 this time. He didn't even make it down to the first corner before it all went all sorts of wrong. That one all started right around the mid-pack, I want to say, with an unfortunate Kyle Kamer getting tangled up with a Nazi Major.
Yeah, it was a tough break, and I don't know if Kyle Kamer knew that they had gone 3 wide. It was Sam Nieto who really wanted to rally the troops and get people going. And you can see he's waiting on Nazi Wager, and then as you see here, he's going to dive right when they get past the start finish. He's going to go to the inside, the 3 wide. So Benazzi moves up, and I think Kyle's going to turn in like he normally would and just goes right across the nose to Benazzi Major there. I'm not sure if he knew that they were 3 wide.
Great save from Kyle Kamer. I'm sure Benazzi Major wishes that hadn't been such a good save. He wishes he would have had to save it in the first place, even as he was the sole driver that got tangled up among a whole host of others as well. Yeah, Kyle Kamer just comes down right across his nose. Very clumsy move from Major, and you can see the 82 car getting all sorts of turnaround. And that is Sam Nieto in his own machine down low. I wasn't sure if I had seen him fully involved, but there he was, the number 2 car, getting collected in that whole mess as well. That's unfortunate as well. Sam Nieto was also having a fairly solid night up until that point.
So we hurry up and wait again, and I said, you know, Kevin King and company, the other drivers on the fresh tires, wouldn't hate a yellow or 2, but this is not what they wanted, right? They wanted, like I said, get about 7 laps in, gain some spots, then take the yellow, right? And try to reset and then try to gain some more spots. But the stop and start, they just don't have the opportunity to gain any positions, right? I mean, they got 5 from the 1 wreck. Looks like Kevin King is going to gain another single position from that one. So he's now up to 13th. But I think, Nolan, it's difficult for the field to take a collective exhale here, because we're going to be pushing on to overtime now, likely going to be going beyond our scheduled distance. They are in no situation to relax, right? They're only going to be more and more aggressive, and that's why you see late race yellows make these finishes so sloppy, is because everybody knows, listen, if I don't drive like an asshole, the guy behind me is. And that's just the way it is in these cars on this kind of a racetrack. And you know, the leaders up front can battle it out, no doubt, but we'll see what happens in the midfield if drivers can have a little bit of patience.
So I asked you before what you thought the odds are we were going to go to overtime. I think it's safe to say we don't need to speculate what we think is going to happen now that that is a surefire fact. Danson, I think, might be able to clinch it off of this restart here. He has been so consistently on point with getting out to several car-like leads by the time they get down into these corners. And it's taken longer for guys like Trudell and Six to be able to run it down after the fact. They managed to get to him after maybe 5 laps or so, but they're only going to have 2. So unless they find a lot of extra speed or are able to really anticipate this restart, this is absolutely Danson's race to lose.
It certainly is, and you know, we talk about how the ability of the control car has been restricted a little bit, right? They're no longer able to go right when the pace car left, which I don't know how helpful that would have been in a place like Michigan, because you almost don't want to get too far out in front. Maybe you can survive on that for a 2-lap shootout, right? But we used to see guys get 6, 8 car lengths out in front because they could fire off with the pace car left. And certainly the new restart zone rules, the new restart zone rules, should say that 3 times fast, has restricted that a little bit, right? You get a smaller sandbox to play in. But it's clear over the last couple of weeks as we've seen this play out in late race restarts and whatnot, these drivers have got the hang of it. I mean, it is Danson's race to lose. He's been so good on the restarts the last couple of times. He just needs to nail 1, maybe a few more, though, because this will be attempt number 1 of 3 and an overtime finish.
I think that's the first time I've heard somebody call them overtime runes. They might feel like runes at some points with how it is to read them.
Half the field is a rune at this point.
Overtime attempt number 1. 2 laps to go. Danson, Trudell, Six, Horn. Those are really the drivers that have the most of an opportunity to try to go for a race win here. But I have a very nagging feeling that this is going to be the Danson show from here to the checkered flag.
We're about to find out. Attempt number 1 of 3 in an overtime restart. Let's see if we could make it the distance. Green flag in the air. 2 laps to go for Matt Danson. He has a good jump on the bottom, but he's unable to clear the 7 to Kyle Trudell this time. The 7's going to tuck in line in 1 and 2, and let's see if the XPM Chevrolet can go to work.
Danson pushes up. There's only a car length and a half between himself and Trudell. Trudell's looking the inside. You can't be doing that. You got to stay in line. Get the draft. You want to be there by the time you get to that white flag. Still trying to make it around 3 and 4. If they make it back to the white flag, race official no matter what happens. Trudell running down Danson onto turn number 4. The white flag can be seen in the distance. A bump draft down the front straight, and Trudell knows better than to make that move into turn 1.
So he'll hold side by side for 3rd behind. Brandon Six on the inside of Connor Horn. They'll go side by side off and into turn number 1, but it's still Danson leading off at turn number 2.
Down the back straightaway. If Trudell's going to make something happen, it's going to have to be a turn 3. Fanny out, 3 wide, almost 4, deeper in the field. Doesn't know if anything for him as the end of the final corner.
And Kyle Trudell still a little bit short, half a car length now off the corner. He'll try to look underneath, but Matt Danson is finally gonna get the job done on an oval. Matt Danson wins at Michigan.
Finally getting the win done. He has won so many road course races before. For a long time, he was considered to be the road course ringer. Picked up a couple of oval wins in other series across the RSR, but finally in the Full Throttle Cup Series, getting it done as he's able to hang on for the race win. Kevin King giving a little bit of a congratulatory nudge entering turn number 3. I imagine Danson, though, is elated with that one.
He has been asking for this for a long time, and he has been working really hard to make this one happen, and it is going to be quite the celebration down under for the former Winter Series champion, because for the first time in the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series, Matt Danson is your race winner on an oval. Fought hard, benefited from a late race yellow, played the strategy right, and was able to hold off some of the big names in the business like Trudell and Horn late. The best part about MIS, he can go and do some burnouts right there in Gatorade Victory Lane. Danson, third race win of 2022. Let's take a look at your Kalis Synthetics full race results tonight from Michigan International Speedway. It took one extra lap than what was scheduled, and Danson gets the win by 1/10 of a second over Kyle Trudell in the number 2 spot and Connor Horn in third. We will talk with all of them in just a few moments. But the Bowtie dominance continues. It was all night long. Kevin King probably shoulda, probably coulda won this race if that late yellow didn't come out at lap number 88. and said he'll settle for 4th, snapping his consecutive race win streak at 2. And then Brandon 6 rounds out your top 5. Nick Silver comes home at P6 tonight ahead of Anthony DeBarro in 7th. David Cobb is in 8th position. Michael J. Johnson 9th. And Jaron Winemaster P10.
Sean Casto finishes all the way down to 11th place. Michael Araya managed to make an impressive run from 33rd to finish up in 12th. Brandon Fetterplace rounds out 13th with William Schmidt down in 14th. Coda Harris is in 15th with Ross Cato in 16th. Wetmore finished in 17th with Rhett McBride +9 in 18th place. Brandenburg was one greater than that in 19th after he started at 29th with Kyle Kamer down 5 to round out the top 20.
And continuing on through, Grant Davis ends up P21 in this affair, ahead of Sam Nieto 22nd. Chris Rabel comes home 23rd. Eric Papadow comes home 24th. And Harry Grindle ends up in 25th. Sean Kalist, 26th position tonight. He's ahead of 27th place finisher Tim Johnston. Braden Whitaker in 28th. Landon Mills, you can see at the bottom of your screen, had the fastest lap of the night, but ends up 25 spots in the red. After starting in 4th, he finishes 29th. Tom Morano right behind him in P30.
And that will leave Andrew Freenage down in 31st place after he's had a top 5 start. By far the biggest loser out of the night. He is going to have a lot of work to do if he wants to get himself back in form by the time we roll around to Richmond in 1 week. Christian Malcharek is down in 32nd, the last car to finish on the lead lap. And he will no doubt be looking for also better results in races forward. Manatee Major is 33rd with Joseph Tice at 34th, 8 laps down, both of them not finishing this race in pit road. Brian Chambliss was 13 laps down to finish in 35th. Jeremy Miller was 36th. Chris Edwards 37th. Brandon Bouya was the last driver to finish this race in 38th place. Michael Kuczynski was 39th. Thomas George was 40th. Daniel Eberhard brings up the rear, 82 laps down from 41st.
Tough break for him. Of course, Dylan Jones never made it to the green flag in this one, and that's a look top to bottom at your Kalis Synthetics full race results. Kalis Synthetics is an independent dealer of AMSOIL lubricants serving the United States and Canada, providing custom engine change lubrication solutions to all types of customers, from private individuals to race teams, hauling fleets, and everything in between. They have the products and expertise to help you save time and money. Dealer number 300-71815. We'll kick off post-race coverage here for Michigan and see if we can catch up with the driver of the number 38 Logitech G Chevrolet. Matt Danson is a 3-time race winner, but I think, Matt, this one's going to stand out for you, getting the win tonight at Michigan International Speedway. You guys had speed all night long. You led half the laps, and you finally got that win.
Yeah, about time, huh? I was going to curse, but I didn't. Yeah, about time. Took far longer than I ever expected, but what a relief. It's more, I don't know, more exciting than any of the road course ones, I guess, just because it's really bloody hard to get these ones on the oval.
Talk us through this race. You start in third, you go quickly to the race lead, you control for the opening 30, and then you start to see some challenges, right? Kyle Trudell gets up there and challenges you, Kevin King does, and then admittedly on the strategy, we go through a green flag pit cycle. It's looking like Kevin and Brandon are going to cycle through, but I mean, you get a timely yellow. Just kind of walk us through the ebbs and flows of the nights that lead to you ended up in victory lane.
Yeah, hopefully my mic's okay too. I had to quickly race and get my AirPods and that. So, yeah, it was really hard to pick what was going to be the right way to go about things. I thought that, because the lap times are kind of, evened out pretty sort of like a third of the way into the run. I thought maybe getting a big lead from, short pitting might be the go, because then it will just even out and be okay. But then it seemed like, like you said, Brandon and Kevin had really, called it perfectly going long, because it just seemed to really benefit them. But timely yellow. I was caught between thinking it was timely or not timely, because I was making that pass on Kyle right as the yellow came out. But then I guess just the way it all played out, I was able to get a good run on that restart on the bottom. I think it was Gamma who stayed out. So sort of got under there, and then it was just a matter of trying to manage the restarts and not choke. And to be honest, probably as much as anything, the win is courtesy of Kyle, because he had a good run. I kind of overdrove 3 and 4 on the the restart, that last restart. Kyle gave me a big push, and if not for that, if we'd have gone side by side, we would have side drafted. Kevin probably comes through and sweeps through on both of us to take the win, because I noticed he got right up there. It was only half a second off. So if not for that, I'd probably lose it. So shout out Kyle. We used to be teammates a long time ago, and he's a really good guy. So appreciate him.
Is this going to be a monkey off the back moment for you? I mean, you're already an accomplished, race winner here in the Cup Series. 6 race wins already coming into this. You've won championships and race wins in the Winter Series. But I know that this is, that oval win is one that you've been looking for. And you guys have at points been off and at points been the fastest car and had opportunities to win it, and for it to not come together. Now that it's happened, does it take any weight off your shoulders? I mean, do you hope maybe that it changes something going forward now that this one's checked off the list?
Yeah, I would definitely hope so. Probably the next thing people say is the only oval I can win on is Michigan. But I'd hope that it's got the monkey off the back. But like I said earlier, it's so hard to win at RSI just anywhere, because the competition is so strong. You've got a bunch of guys that either have been in Coke before, deserve to be in Coke now, put in a lot of effort to be really fast. Guys like Brandon Six is just incredible. Kyle Trudell, Nieto, all those guys are just phenomenal. Hopefully it's the monkey off the back. I can just win every race ever now. But it's not going to be that easy. But one thing I will shout out real quick. I know you're probably going to give me my opportunity, but I'll just do it now anyway, because I can hear him crying in the background. Obviously very recently was blessed with a little son, Oliver. So I'll dedicate this one to him, and of course my partner Alex. Super excited. Maybe he's brought some good luck to me.
I think so. It's 2 wins in the last 4 weeks for you. You might just have this thing figured out. You got 3 race wins so far, and if you want to win the rest, you got 13 more to win before the season's done. So I'll look forward to seeing that record-breaking streak, Matt, but we'll let you get back to him and the rest of the fam. But we appreciate you racing with us and showing your talents at Monday night. Congratulations on this win. It means a lot.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it, guys. Take care.
It's your race winner tonight from the virtual Michigan International Speedway, Matt Danson, now a 7-time Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series winner. Second in this one goes to Kyle Trudell, who's trackside with Nolan Rempel.
And we move on to the second place driver, Kyle Trudell. Kyle, you were right on the nose of Matt Danson when you came to that white flag, but still fell a little bit short, but you still finished runner-up, plus 7 where you started today. What did you think going through that green-white checkered finish there?
It was definitely tense, and my restarts weren't all that great, so I was just happy to, have a decent one there at the end to keep me in second.
So overall, Michigan International Speedway is a very unique facility. We haven't seen anything like it since we were at Auto Club early this year. You were kind of a bit up and down throughout the run. You were one of the first drivers to come on down in that pit window from the top runners. Do you think at the end of the day that was a call that paid off for you?
I think even if it had gone green all the way, it might have, netted me a couple of spots. Although I was kicking myself a little bit because it was a little bit too early. But, I think ultimately that's what I had to do in order to to the lead or close to it. It was just about holding on. But as we know, the tire wear was pretty incredible on the right front if you didn't take care of it. So, I was just trying to do that at the same time while having speed.
And obviously, we are getting a little bit closer to the end of the regular season, but the shot for you to get in off of a race win is still very much alive in some of the races coming forward. What's your thoughts as we get set to roll on over into Richmond next week?
Yeah, this year's been a little bit different for me. Schedule-wise, I'm not able to make, a lot of the Monday nights. So, I can join into the races that I can make. It's usually every other Monday. So, I'm definitely going to need to win in order to make the playoffs. Tonight was a good shot. I was a little bit worried. I had a good run there on Danson coming to the white. But if I was second guessing it just a little bit, if I had pulled out there and gotten side by side, I think the pack would have caught us. And, that would have definitely been a little bit more interesting. So in that moment, I just figured I would push him and, get through 1 and 2. If he maybe made a mistake, then I could have been right there to capitalize, or maybe get a run on him, out of 3 and 4 even. But pretty satisfied with second. It's a good turnaround for me. This year has been definitely up and down with not making a lot of the schedule, and then getting into different circumstances throughout the races, having some bad luck, and really just trying to get a handle on the car. It's finally starting to click for me with this Chevrolet Camaro. I want to thank XPM for having the stamp on it. Martin Sports providing the jerseys that are pretty badass. So if you're needing a jersey for your team, go out and check out Martin Sports. But otherwise, yeah, I'm going to need to win. I think Daytona is the next one I'm going to be able to make. So I got to go out and win it.
Well, hopefully you'll be able to get that race win over at the Daytona International Speedway and make your way on over into the playoffs. Thank you for joining us here tonight, Kyle. Best of luck in the weeks going forward.
I appreciate you guys today. Thanks. Good race.
That's Kyle Trudell joining us from second place. We will move on down to the final driver up on the podium, Connor Horn. And what a pass around the outside line for you, Connor. We didn't get a chance to really talk about that all that much, but round the outside of Brandon Six, you clinched third place by just 0.06 of a second while simultaneously fending off Kevin King from the inside line. What's it feel for you to be able to make a move like that to secure a podium here tonight at Michigan?
It was good. I was glad I was able to hold on. I had a little bit of damage. I had their pair from earlier in the race to 26, walled me early, which I didn't like that. But I was able to manage top 10 until that first yellow came out. Then repaired the damage, got far back, and probably should have known it was going to be hard to pass, but I didn't think it would be worse than Pocono. But I think it was just really tough when everyone's kind of stacking up on the top, and if you go to the bottom, it's kind of a danger zone unless you have somewhere to slide up. So that was rough. I got maybe to 18th and stalled out. Tried to pit as early as I could for tires, and obviously had to stay in the fuel window, and got me track position. Fell back to like 13th. The tires were evening out. No one was really catching me from behind anymore. And then that yellow came out, kind of changed things. Everyone got fresh tires. I think some people had mess ups on pit road because I gained a lot of spots from there. And then after that initial restart after the second yellow, it was kind of just survive and get what you could. Everyone was kind of rushing for everything. I pretty much just held it to the top, got what I could. Then they started wrecking, and then strategy came into play. Kevin pit, which was interesting. Didn't think he would with the track, how important track position was, but he got through there. Avoid some wrecks and got through there. So tires definitely might have been a move on another green if we had one more green white checkered. That final restart, I thought I could have gotten to Kyle and pushed him, but that was the one restart I didn't stay on his bumper, and cost me because I couldn't stay with him, and me and Brandon were locked, and those two kind of pushed each other away from the pack, and we were kind of just battling for third at that point. By the time the white flag flew, we were side by side and they were gone. So good to get third. Kind of struggled, but pulled a top 3 out of it.
among one of those yellow flags that you found yourself right in the middle of was that big one right in the final 10 laps when Andrew Friedrich found himself sideways. When I say right in front of your bumper, I really mean right in front of your bumper. What goes through a driver's head like that when you all of a sudden see somebody just sideways right in front of you and you don't really have a whole lot of places to go?
You're just looking for clean air. You're looking for the track, basically. You're trying to look for any spot on track where there's not a car sideways or looking to end your race. I didn't see many places to go there. I knew the outside was open after the 7. Even when the 7 was sliding, I was just scared someone was going to kind of swoop up there and we were going to make contact. Brandon kind of missed the corner and Kyle pinched and they came together. There wasn't much I could do. Sucks I kind of tapped Andrew. I kind of forced him into the wall earlier, so he's probably not too happy with me. But at that point, you can't really focus on not trying to wreck someone else. You just need to focus on not wrecking yourself. And I kind of just got off the gas, didn't really use too much brake. Kind of squeezed my way to the outside. And after Andrew kind of slid down the track and got off my bumpers, kind of smooth sailing from there. So lucky to get through that. Just had to pace myself and not overreact.
With a race like this at a track like Michigan, there's very seldom a chance for you drivers to even get the chance to so much as breathe, let alone be able to actually settle into a proper rhythm with how hectic everything can be as opposed to some of the usual tracks like the usual 1.5 cc, such as Las Vegas, for example. Is that a type of style of racing that you think suits your mindset a bit more, or do you prefer stuff where you're able to just kind of settle down and just ride it out until the end?
I'd rather settle down. I don't really appreciate this kind of plate racing stuff. It's something that I wish was different because, you know, if you look at the Cup race yesterday, while there was a lot of lines of draft, it wasn't really bumper to bumper for as long as it seemed to last. It seemed like, for the most part, bumper to bumper sort of lasted maybe 30 laps. I don't know what was happening at the front, but I was in tough traffic on that middle run, lap 20 to 60, seemingly the entire time. We were kind of in lock and it was hard to pass. Vegas, it was kind of packed up, but you kind of got to run your own line. And Auto Club, while it was also draft dependent, you're able to run your own line and move around and make your own moves a little bit more than you have been at like Pocono and Michigan, for example. So I wish that we could get some more spread out races, but that's kind of reserved for the smaller tracks for that to happen at, and some 1.5s, Nashville maybe a little bit as well. But it's kind of tough to, you know, when the draft is so strong and there's not too much aero wash, it gets difficult to get spread out and get in a rhythm. So those type of rhythm tracks I enjoy. This isn't bad either. I think I'm okay at this type of racing, but hasn't been my strong suit. Still trying to adjust to it.
Well, we're going to be going to one of those smaller tracks next week at Richmond, and hopefully you'll be able to do a little bit better over there as well, and maybe find yourself up a step or two on the podium at the end of our 200-lap race at Richmond next week. Well, that's going to be about us from here, Connor. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here tonight.
Yep, thank you. Appreciate it, man.
That was Connor Horn in the number 67 Chevrolet joining us here from third place and the third step on the podium, and that'll wrap it up then for the podium drivers from Michigan.
A big thanks to Matt Danson, Kyle Trudell, Connor Horn for all talking with us. And again, no major shakeup in terms of the top of the championship, right? Matt Danson had already had a couple of race wins. I'd be worried about him now because he has been looking for this for a long time. And I think this is going to motivate him to really pound the pavement the next couple of weeks and to be up there. But, I feel bad, Nolan, for this to always be the story we end with. But I think Daniel Eberhardt's still the most interesting story in this playoff, right? Because if he's in the playoffs, he can win the championship. And he's the only person with race wins who's realistically on the fritz, right? And tonight was a step back for him. So I'm just going to look at the points and read it right off, right? He stays 30th in the points, right? He doesn't lose any point standings, but the people ahead of him get further away. So Kyle Trudell is now the benchmark, 25th in points, okay? Kyle Trudell leaves tonight 222 points, whereas Daniel Eberhardt leaves tonight with 177 points. Okay, that means that he is now 45 points out of that race win, counting towards playoff eligibility. That is a race worth of points that he needs to make up on Grant Davis, David Cobb, Kyle Trudell, Jaron Weinmaster. Those are guys who can run top 10. I think it's time to hit the panic button, and I know a lot of it's not his fault, right? Taken out of an accident tonight, but Daniel Eberhard has come so close year after year to be that guy, to take down Freenosh, and we referenced earlier, this may be the year where it happens, where Freenosh finally looks human, and Daniel Eberhard realistically may not be there to challenge.
And I think that has got to be a very big concern. That is going to be playing on Eberhard's mind. You absolutely know we'll be going into the races, especially when you get down to tracks like Watkins Glen, where it is so hard to even get around drivers to be able to make a pass, let alone even just sticking with them like it is at Michigan. It's going to be even more on his mind at Daytona, where it's even more possible to be taken out in an accident with how volatile of a track Daytona can be every single time we go there without fail. I think he is going to really have to work hard in that number 90 car if he's going to have any shot at taking the title this year. He is still in with a shout, but he has really got to have some good results. He cannot afford anything else to go his wrong as it has tonight if he wants to make it happen.
Yeah, he can do it, but he cannot afford any more missteps. And as we referenced, talk about the drivers, we head to the action track next Monday night from Richmond Raceway. I mean, we're worried about the road course coming up, Nolan. We're worried about the super speedway coming up. We got a rough and tough short track under the lights fight in 1 week's time. That's not going to be a walk in the park either.
No, absolutely not. Richmond is definitely one of the more wild tracks you go to when it comes to the short track calendar. It's 3/4 of a mile, but boy, it is a lot smaller than that once you actually get to race around it. And personally, I'm looking forward to every single lap, especially if we have as big a field there as we have had tonight.
Looking forward to the racing. Looking forward to everybody for joining us in 1 week's time when that one goes down. But until then, that is it for us here tonight from Michigan. So on behalf of our entire team at RaceSpotTV, RealSimRacing, and our partners at Kayla Synthetics, and for your broadcast team tonight. For Joshua Lee downstairs in the producer seat, for Nolan Rempel, myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to thank all of you for tuning in and congratulate that man right there. Matt Danson's done a lot, but he can now call himself a Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series oval race winner. He's the 3-time race winner this season, and he'll try to carry that momentum in the next week at Richmond on Monday, August the 15th. That race and every race of this 2022 season can be found exclusively right here on RaceSpotTV. Till next time, good night from Michigan, where it is Matt Danson for the very first time in victory lane on an oval.